Hi. As part of our ERP implementation process, we are explaining more on our master data preparation. Today we touch upon the bill of material. Bill of material, as you know, this is the structure of the raw materials of the semi-finished products. They are, grouping together to make a finished good. So let me explain the fields that are required in the master data preparation. The first one is let's say I take an example of a bottle here, and this bottle has two raw material. That's basically cap and the body. That's all, nothing much on that. So what we are defining here first is the bottle bill of material. There's the bill of material ID required, and what is the finished good ID. Now these finished good IDs and the raw material should have been created in the product master before you create the bill of material. If this unit of measurement and raw material IDs are not there and not matching with the product master, system will give an error. So you need to create a product master before you come to the bill of material. So prerequisite to the bill of material is, if I mention it here, is basically product master should have been created. Okay. In case you have the non-standard unit of measurement, then those units to be created. Like for example, you want to make a dozen kind of a thing. So these two things you have to create as a part of the prerequisites before you start the bill of material creation. Okay. Now there are certain terms I have mentioned over here. When you traditionally define a bill of material, this is the finished good ID and the raw material required or the semi parts required to make the assembly. Here, to make one bottle, I need one cap and one body, the body of the bottle required. That's the bill of material I create. And I have the details like a labor cost, machinery, overhead, or electricity and other costs. These are the add-on costs required to convert the assembly or the manufacture of this raw material into a finished good. That means to make a one bottle, I need these two parts. Plus, I can add these costs as a part of the raw material to the finished good, right? For example, let us say cap maybe say 1 rupee 55 paisa per piece, or maybe the body of the machine, the part could be say 2 rupee 90 paisa, right? So from the raw material perspective, the total cost of the semi-finished part is about 4 rupee 45 paisa, right? Now to that you can add the labor and machine cost. It comes to be about 6 rupees. So the total is 10 rupee 45 paisa is the assembly of a bottle or the finished good over here. So you have the option to predefine the pricing details as a part of the finished good reporting, so that when every time the part is the production is reported, the raw material list will appear with the correct values. Okay, so as I said, bill of material ID, finished good ID you define, and the description, unit of measurement, and the quantity. To make one quantity, what are the raw material required here? You just mentioned here. Okay, now after that, there is a two words I have used. One is the wastage. The definition of wastage is explained here, right? Like these costs are an optional one. If you have defined, otherwise leave it zero. For example, let's say you can leave it zero and go ahead, no issues. Now the wastage is basically those items which cannot be recovered. Now wastage is different from the scrap, always remember. For example, you are cutting a rod. When you are cutting the rod, there is a 1 mm or 2 mm, the wastage happens on the cutting place that cannot be recovered. That is the wastage. That means if you need 100 mm thickness of the length of the rod required, you have to allocate 2 mm extra. That means 102 mm required as the raw material. So that is the wastage you can define. So if you say 100 mm is the millimeter is the, for example, the rod required, you can say 2%. You are defining either in the percentage or as the absolute number, you have the option. Now, if you say 2 mm, it's a percentage yes and 2%, that means 102 mm is the system picks up. Okay, if you say no and you say 5 here, that means system will pick 500, 105 mm it will take. So that is a simple calculation. Afterwards, we have the additional parameters we collect as a part of this process. That is the specification, what is the type, where the reference, the location. Additional parameter, when you define the bill of material, you have the option to predefine and take it as a part of the process. Again, not a mandatory field. The next one is the byproduct. Okay. It's supposed to be a scrap. Just give a simple one so that understandable. A byproduct is basically a outcome of a raw material. Some of the case, what happens, you have taken a big rod of 100 mm, you need only 35 mm cut in that. The remaining material, you want to take it as the end bit or the raw material, right? Traditionally, in the ERP, we call it as a byproduct. That is the output of a raw material plus finished good and one more component that comes out. It could be remaining item, it could be scrap, anything. Okay. For example, if you make the scrap as the outcome of the material, the advantage of that, if you have the stock anything, you can sell it off and that cost can be added there. Okay. Again, this is an optional field. Either it is yes or no kind of a thing. If it is not a byproduct, just make it as a no and progress with that. Now, these are all important parameters. For example, if you say there is a scrap is going to come out, and you say how much is the scrap, 1.5 number is coming, you can say what is the unit price. So here is 1.5 number into 100 per unit price, so it's 150 rupees. Okay, so this is important in the case of you have a lot of scraps and how you want to capture and take the stock back into inventory, you have the control there. The last but not least is in the bill of material, raw material, there could be a child default bill of material you want to attach. For example, you have a cycle. Cycle has a tire, correct? 2 tires required in one cycle, let us say. That tires or the tire tubes, what we call there, the tire is containing the tubes and the frame, everything, right? Now, that is another bill of material. And you can say what is the standard bill of material you want as a part of the process, you can attach. That is the meaning of these figures. So what we do now is we will just take one of the sample and we'll create a master so that you get an idea what is the bill of material. I have just typed some data over here. Okay, we will just take it and see how this behaves. It's an example of a cycle I have taken. Okay, nothing more. So the finished good ID is cycle. To make a one cycle, I need 3 components. That's what I defined here. Wheels and numbers, like 2 wheels I need. There's a cycle, tire and other including, and frame and 1 handlebar. Now being a data created in the Excel, the best way is you have to repeat the data here. Like 3 lines are there, but you need to define. So system knows when uploading time, it understands what to do. So to make a one cycle, you need 3 components. And if you don't have a labor and other cost you don't want to mention, just leave it as a 0. As a part of the finished good report, you can add the cost at the point of production reporting. Now I say these are the raw material I need, basically semi-finished parts and all. And I say there is no wastage because I'm not getting any scrap, anything here. So I don't want to mention anything. So you just say no here. You leave these data fields as a blank as it is, not to worry. Afterwards, when I come to the byproduct, again I say there is no byproduct because assumption here is there is no scrap, not our end bits are coming, because in the cycle assembly, these are all the semi-finished or parts by themselves. Just I assemble it, right? So I don't need to mention anything here. Then the last one is what is the default bill of material you want to use. This is required in case, let us say, the cycle frame that you manufactured here, it has a 2 bill of material. One is the standard, another one is the non-standard bill of material if you have. That time, more than the 1 bill of material, you can tell the system which is the default to be considered for the planning purpose and other activity. If it is not there, you can leave this field as a last as a blank. There is no problem. Okay. Just to summarize, Bill of material is very important in the ERP, and these data should be defined in the product master, like a finished goods and the raw material to be defined in the bill of material first. Okay, once this data is defined, then only you can attach them in the bill of material master creation. Labor and machine costs are optional, they are not a mandatory. Wastage means it's a item, the scrap or anything that's a waste you can't recollect. Scrap is the one you have rejected the item, and this can be used to collect and sell in the market. For example, in the turning or a cutting operation, you get an end bits that cannot be reused in the ERP or the production purpose. That can be tracked as end bits coming out of the process. It may be costing some 10 rupees to 20 rupees depending on the market size, and that money recovered from the process. That's the meaning of the scrap there. So this particular bill of material is a simple process, and defined with the correct examples, it will help you out. If any concern or issues you have, you can call back to our implementation consultant, and we are happy to help you out. Thanks a lot.